opportunities for SK, which is why if they got a win here, they'd be tied in wins with Heretics and BDS and G2. So they'd be in a very comfortable spot, especially when you think about expectations coming into the league. SK was a team that we expected to be at the bottom of the standings. So the fact that they find themselves in this position, and if they get this win against Rogue, the rest of the season is looking pretty bright.
And they still have some tough tasks, some hard matchups ahead of them, but if they can win this one, win the games against Vitality, they're in an excellent position to make playoffs. And right now, getting to that top 6 threshold is really all that matters for any of these teams. But here we are in draft. None of the bands too surprising quite yet. Aurora gonna hit the bench a little bit early. Obviously something that Adam has had unique build options for and has prioritized a lot alongside an Azir and a Jace.
I mean, Azir makes a huge amount of sense, especially with Talia taken off the table. Larssen with a bit of his Nako impression as he thinks about, alongside Rogue, what they want to prioritize. SK with Varus taken away. I'm curious as to what the priority is going to be. Will it be something like the Skarner? Will it be a jungler? Or will it instead be one of the safer AD carry options like a potential Ezreal? They could go for something like Corki. We've been seeing a lot from it from Keduii. Of course, the standard Rumble, always a very safe blind pick on the top side.
And one of the counter picks that has shown its face a few times has been the Varus top. And while it's a niche pick, it's one that this time around is banned away, which makes it even easier to first pick that option. The question is, do Rogue immediately want to respond with top lane? I imagine the jungle...
Anivia, that's what we saw yesterday.
Anivia, also pretty good.
I don't know if Adam plays Anivia.
Does anyone really play Anivia?
Nako, he was pretty good at it.
I mean, yeah, he was great at it. But does anyone call themselves an Anivia main? Do those people still exist?
Frog.
Yeah.
Old school go.
True. So you can't take it away from Froggen.
The man, the myth, the legend. Kalista can be locked in for Patrik, so this will be his first Kalista of the split. A lane-dominant AD carry that once Varus falls to the wayside naturally rises in priority. There aren't many AD carries that can respond. Things like Ashe and Draven are commonly seen, but you can choose to play a little bit safer. Things like the Ezreal, Corki as well as a champion that can look to fight during the laning phase. So SK shouldn't feel too strapped in terms of options. They have a lot of directions they could go.
And Keduii able to pick up the Ezreal, something that's been target banned against him specifically in a ton of matchups. Of course, giving over the Kalista does feel a little bit risky, but of course Rogue have not had the best track record, even in the games where they've been able to build early leads, have really struggled to close games out, and Keduii has looked incredibly confident on that Ezreal pick, signature option for a long time. Paired now alongside the Vi. Vi has not looked great in Europe. Yikes, sadly the poster child for that, but it's still, you know what it's going to give you in a very conventional option into the Xin. As long as she gets to level 6, pretty powerful pick.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that she's got great lockdown, and especially against a champion like Kalista, who's just dancing around everywhere. Having that lockdown CC is, of course, incredibly valuable. The question is, what will they follow it up with? Because, of course, with the Rumble ultimate being that backline sort of support, I would say, because once you lock that target down, the Rumble ultimate comes across and you're like, oh nice, big damage, they're stuck there. But you need that extra bit of follow-up. So things like Leona, Rell, naturally going to rise in priority, potentially Alistair as well as the Galio response to what I imagine is the Rumble on the top side of the map.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talk about frequently whenever we do see Galio locked in is that he wants other champions that are going to dive in with him to give him value out of that ultimate, to allow them to set up that big AoE. Xin and Kalista, both good tools, right? Kalista's tossing somebody in. We'll assume it's a conventional support pick. Could still be the Galio, but very likely that is going into the hands of Adam on the top side of the map. But it does mean that we're going to need some sort of carry, perhaps some sort of control mage from Larssen in the mid lane to really round out this damage profile.
So when we look at Rika's pool from this split, Yone banned, Jace banned, Hwei banned, Talia banned, Azir banned. He's played Ahri and Sylas as well, but Ahri banned. His pool has been very pinched in this game. It does feel to me that Rogue's game plan is to try and take Rika off some comfort as the response Victor ban is going to come through directed towards Larssen, and it looks like Rogue more than happy to lock in a conventional mid lane mage for Larssen.
I mean, when in doubt, just put more circles on the Wombo combo, right? Galio, Xin, the Orianna. I mean, the Akali would be certainly a pretty aggressive option.
I mean, they could just lock in support here, unless they really want to make sure that Execute has a nice counter pick, which if they want to guarantee a strong bot lane 2v2 does make sense. I think Orianna is a completely fine, safe blind. Now Rika's pool is going to be tested because he's had a lot of bans directed towards him. Sylas is the only other champion that he's shown so far this split. You have to imagine that he's got more in the tank. let's see what they prepared for us, as we're expecting something like a potential Rell, maybe a Leona to come through from the side of SK. Unless they want to go defensively, they could go for Brawn, but I don't really like it. I do prefer the follow-up engage that a Rell provides.
Yeah, just generically, I think strong support option if you're going to have to blind pick something conventionally good. Doesn't have quite the same early game weakness that the Alistar does that you highlighted earlier on. We'll see how the lane phase looks, as now the Corki's locked in, presumably headed into the mid lane. So we've got double 80 carry threats, or is it?
That's a great question.
I mean, I like Keduii Ezreal. I feel like this man has been target banned so much, please just let him play it. But little Ezreal mid, a little bit of spice. I'm always up for it. I'm up for it.
Do a quick bit of research, see if I can find
And the worst part about Fearless Game 1 is sometimes people stop cooking, and now the Rakan as well. And I gotta say, if Rogue can pilot this draft, if they can play with the level of aggression needed, this is a fantastic, fantastic composition. But one of those situations where I look back at their previous series and I start to get a bit hesitant, because sometimes when it's time to put your foot on the gas, Rogue have often lacked that initiative.
I would say one of the biggest points of criticism I would have for Rogue is that Malrang hasn't delivered on my expectations of him. When we think of Malrang as a player, he's a hyper-aggressive jungler that's all about looking for ganks in creative ways. He was the guy that would gank you at level 2 on Jarvan through a creative lane gank, or he would go over a wall and he would catch you by surprise. He was someone that when Rogue was at the peak of Europe and the LEC, he was a core component of that.
He had aura.
Yeah, he certainly did.
Every game, every lane, when you played and queued up against Malrang, you took a step back because you were like, no one should be here, but Malrang might be here.
Exactly, and I think this is something that I haven't really seen from him this split. On a champion like Zhao, I think that fits that style perfectly. So I think that he is enabled to be that aggressor, to be the engage tool, and Rogue have a lot of tools to potentially follow up.
Yo, there are some incredible signs today. Shout out to everyone who can draw, and those of you who can't draw and have watched the Berlin apartment. Bro, I've been there. I have been there.
My man is getting desperate.
Yeah, you're out of luck, my guy. That is a tough one. But who knows? Maybe if you cheer loud enough for Rogue or SK, they'll have a spot for you, whatever their facility. That's how you do it in esports. Find a job somewhere. Hope it comes with housing.
You're not wrong.
Works for pros.
30 seconds until
now, SK, as we mentioned earlier, find themselves at 2-2 in the split. Their wins have been, well, I guess their season has been weird.
It's been weird. They Goomba stomped Fnatic.
Yeah.
In the wildest upset since, of course, that series yesterday where BDS kind of stomped G2.
And then they themselves got stomped.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking like, oh yeah, this is it. SK, they're finally like this great team after defeating Fnatic. What else can they achieve? And then they lost to KC. And they got slaughtered by KC. And then they went up against GX, and as you rightly said, they beat them. So SK is a team that definitely seems to, it's hard to get a great gauge on where they're at in the league, especially when so many different teams have played so many different number of games. As you mentioned, Rogue, very front-loaded in terms of the season schedule. But this is a super important series for them. We already talked a lot about it. Given that the top 6 qualifies for playoffs, for anyone that's followed our league for a while, we've typically had top 8 from a very condensed regular season into a top 8 playoffs. Now our spring works in single round robin, best of 3 format, and the top 6 at the end of the regular season will qualify to the playoffs, and then top 2 will go to MSI. So a lot on the line for these teams, because right now, as you mentioned earlier, their primary goal is to make it to the top 6, make it to playoffs, because that is, I mean, what gives you that next opportunity to compete and qualify for internationals.
And for Rogue, this is a must-win. For SK, it's essentially, it feels like a must-win, but they have a little bit more agency, a little bit more time, because as mentioned, they've just played less series. You can see 6 series played so far by Rogue, 1-5, 4 by SK, 2-2. And again, if you're just joining us, brief pause. Issue was resolved. Eyes on Malrang, what you call that. But I think it's fair, especially when you're playing Xin into the Vi. If there was a time for him to bring back that sometimes insane level of aggression,
I
think this is definitely the game to do it. You also have a lot of strong laners to back you up in doing so.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how this bot lane 2 versus 2 goes, because typically when you pick Kalista, you're looking to get that pushing lane, and typically Rakan doesn't offer you a lot of lane power in the early levels. Loopy completely mitigates that early damage thanks to the Aftershock proc, which means it executes the one at a disadvantage, and it's SK's bot lane that, for now, is getting that very brief early push.
Always tricky. Loopy, of course, the damage will stick a little bit more in extended fights, as Rakan will soon get access to the Gleaming Quill, but a fast level 2 forces an early flash from Execute. Solid start to happen. Now the return. Execute stepping up. Still can't really find the angle, though. Bit awkward. Losing the flash on Rakan definitely sucks. Of course, has a lot of mobility innately in the kit, so shouldn't be hurt too much, but Rogue Botland has to be careful here. It would really suck to pick the Kalista, to counter-pick support, and then lose control of the lane.
Very much agree. We'll see how things transpire, because the rest of the map is still pretty positive for Rogue. Adam, kind of the shining star of the roster throughout the split, is continuing to get push on the top side of the map. You know, on mid lane, Larssen taking a few rough trades. Remember that Rika's pool was very much pinched. He's bringing out the Corki, who's someone that can be a pretty effective laner. Against Orianna, with few levels under a belt in the early game, it can be difficult for her to trade. Often you give the advantage because of her Clockwork Wind-Up passive, where stacking autos. Fortunately, against an AD carry, that doesn't really mean that much.
Also just against Corki, right? If you're eating the Gatling gun, you're getting shredded, it's just never going to feel too good. Q missed, though, by Loopy, but a quick shift out from Keduii. Concede too much. I mean, it's a good call. I am curious when we get into like the mid-game, right, what the range discrepancy looks like, because Ezreal and Corki both very free to poke.
Yep.
And if Execute or Malrang aren't immediately starting a fight, Rogue, it's going to be a struggle if it's everything's on vision, full-on 5v5. It could be pretty tricky.
I mean, for anyone that watched the BDS G2 series yesterday, Malrang's got to channel that 1-1-3 energy. You know, I saw some of the comments behind that, which was hilarious. Just like, want to watch me engage? Want to watch me do it again? Want to watch me do it again? Want to watch me do it again? And the man was on point with the engages that he was finding.
I love, because probably that same exact meme has been used against him multiple times.
True, exactly, yes.
But then he stops G2 and bam, we flip the script on his head.
Hey man, that's 1-1-3. But that type of energy is what we need to see from Malrang today. That level of aggression, when it comes to fights, he has to be confident, and his team has to be ready to follow up, because Rakan plus Sin plus the Orianna, you can see the components for the Wombo combo. You can see their ability to one-shot those AD carries, but they're going to have to execute upon it.
For now, though, Malrang spotted on vision, mitigating some of his ability to go top. You see Adam just kind of holding the wave, knowing that he's on the stronger side of the map. Boukada probably just going to focus on rushing that level 6, right? It's stock standard for the Vi as Rika tries to get some push back here, and looks like won't mean too much. Larssen going to be in time to catch it, but will have a TP advantage, I imagine, that he will just immediately use to return to lane, as supports are already battling. 80 carries left in their isolated 1v1. Not too much happening quite yet.
Ultimately, it's just been full clears from both junglers. A bit of farm being traded across the board. You can see Rogue with an ever so slight lead, just because Adam has a bit of a CS advantage in top. The same can be said on the bot side of the map. So a very standard game for the first 5 minutes. The questions will now start to arise of, do you want to swap? Do you want to play for Drake? What is your first neutral objective that you want to play for? And as I say that, Malrang already sending his sights for the dragon.
Malrang has answers. Starting Drake, SK didn't really have control of bottom lane. Of course, it was just the 1v1 where Patrik was able to grab push. Now SK pushing out in return, but I think by the time they're able to move up into the river, the moment will have already passed. And there's not really a counterplay on the top side, as grubs aren't available yet.
Yeah, I guess the downside of having those jungle clears pretty much mimicked is that...
Keduii, good damage down on the Execute, but no real play to be had there.
Yeah, the downside is that...
If you want to try to talk, they'll just start trading.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. The downside is that if you're mirroring and you don't have push, then it's going to be difficult to contest. So in this situation, Malrang was able to find that first objective. But you'll notice on the minimap, Boukada setting his sights on the grubs. He will be spotted out. Now comes the question of, are Rogue in time to be able to contest? I'm going to say no, because Malrang still has his bot camps that he needs to clear, so he's going to prioritize doing that.
Yep. Gen X immediately going to clear the wave, doesn't want to risk any threat of dive or losing plates here.
And I like the fact that SK did swap their bot lane to top, because in the event that Malrang said, screw my bot lane camps, I want to come and fight this, at the very least SK's bottom lane will be there and ready to fight.
And this is one of SK's, I think, favorite plays, is usually using top lane or TP to reset to bottom lane. You can see Ezreal's already on the top side. Did look like Keduii lost a couple minions to the tower there, but without a replay, hard to be certain. So not too much lost in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, but also in theory, you got yourself out of the Kalista lane too, right?
True.
So you can now, as Ezreal, freely farm up against a Galio who really poses no threat. Rumble, of course, is at a potential risk of a dive, but thanks to the equalizer.
I mean, he used the equalizer on the last wave.
That's true. Here we go. Malrang setting up for the play.
Which, in hindsight, feels a little bit awkward. I think he was giving respect to the potential dive. But now he's very vulnerable. Malrang going to start things. Wind becoming lightning. Execute the one tanking tower, though. Is just going to get immediately pulled back. Quick first blood, but Malrang will manage to survive just barely. Ulti from the Ezreal not going to connect. Clean dive from Rogue. And yeah, Gen X, I think, a little over-eager on that initial use of the equalizer.
Just Rogue with a great mindset, and I love the execution on the play. No mistakes, able to cleanly dive onto Gen X. They also get his flash out, and they recognize that, hey, we're strong on the bot side of the map. We need to make this dive happen, and Adam respects the potential cross-map and dissuades as well. So gold is going to remain even for now, thanks to the advantage that Rika's been able to build up in the mid lane, but overall, nice start by Rogue.
Feels so good, too, for Patrik to get that extra influx of gold, Reaper, bow, and the boots, too, especially when Keduii. Just the sheen, just a tier slowly stacking, and it's a little bit rough in the early game here for SK. It doesn't cost them too much. Might lose one creep here to the way, but it looks like Reaper is there just in time. RKR, excuse me, as we heard in the interview. I think that's a fair choice. It's going to take me a while, though, so apologies to SK and him.
Oh, I think Gen X is in trouble.
Rinse and repeat is the name of the game. The flash forward, they know that Rumble's got no flash. 3 talent strike, Wind becoming lightning, Gen X becoming dead.
Yep. And it's a nice repeat gank from Rogue. Keep attacking this bot side and try and funnel that gold into Patrik, who is the individual that's claimed both kills for Rogue. So this Kalista is off to a great start, building a nice gold lead, getting accelerated towards that Blade of the Ruin King. So I think Rogue playing towards their win condition nicely, and we're getting to see what we wanted to see from Malrang.
Ezreal ult incoming. Malrang flash backwards, follow-up is there. Malrang likely dead. Shockwave does manage to connect with Boukada, grabbing that one. Good response coming in from SK.
Quite a few flashes committed by SK, but they get a return kill, and they get themselves on the board. It will be handed over to the Vi, which I don't think is a bad target. And bear in mind that while Malrang has been super aggressive on the map, has been trying to funnel resources into Patrik, Boukada has been full clearing repeatedly. He has multiple camps ahead of his opponent, and thanks to getting that kill, he now has a 700 gold lead over Malrang.
Yeah, good call out. I didn't notice it when it was just a 20 camp lead. I see it now with the kill. That's gonna be rough in these first fights, especially because the first item, Sundered Sky, can just do so much work in those early fights to mitigate some of that upfront burst damage, to survive in the extended exchanges. See when Boukada is able to make something happen. Malrang now flashless, has been successful on those first 2 dives, but it does feel like some of the momentum from Rogue a bit stymied here. 47 seconds till the next spawn of Grubs. Almost exactly the same for the Drake, so we'll see if it's another handshake on trading objectives, or if both teams want to go to the same place, as both bot lanes are on the bottom side of the map. It makes me feel like Dragon going to be the name of the game.
What I would like to see SK do is start moving Rika into a side lane to play against this Galio. Look, early magic resistance you would expect in this matchup especially, so put an AD carry up against him. You'll have much more side lane threat, and the Rumble, I mean, obviously Gen X has been struggling in the side lane, given that he has been the target focus, but something for SK to think about as they transition into this mid game. And as the second dragon spawns, TPs are available for both top laners. The Galio ulti is available, of course, as well. Keduii looking to make his presence known here in the river.
Stepping up, poking. Both supports still level 5. Now SK lost push on the bottom side of the map. They do have much better position, much better control over the Drake. Mid lane will only be at an even point now. However, that's the TP being committed. Rogue, this is their time to kick things off. Ball from Larssen towards the top side of the river. Grouping as a 5-man here, and a little bit awkward from the side of SK. They do get the TP out, but despite their initial setup, aren't really able to hold the objective. Keduii sent it to the bottom side of the map to pick up that wave, but doesn't have a TP of his own, so won't be here to join if they do want to go for the Grubs.
They're going straight towards the Grubs, and Rogue is right behind them. Rogue still have that 5 stack. Keduii is bot lane. don't know how they're going to contest this.
Larssen isn't there, though. It is just a 4v4. Loopy level 5. Nice Ezreal ult. One grub stolen away at the very least, so that's 4 for SK. A nice threshold to hit. Doesn't count towards the feats, but
no smites available right now.
Stay. Larssen
Loopy on the flank.
They see Larssen. They know now it's a 4v4. They might want to kick things off. Boukada decent damage. Now looking to lock up Patrik, but the Galio responding in turn. The magic damage shield clutch, and they can't quite finish the job. The Kalista, too damn strong in the extended fight. Larssen here, a little bit late, a little bit unnecessary. Wanted to show force just in case. In the meantime, Keduii going to be pushing bot.
Of course, those TP channel time is so long still this early into the game. Larssen will concede the bot wave, but ultimately it is a good play for Rogue. They will stop any further grubs from going down. SK securing one means that they will get to that 4th one. For Rogue finding themselves another kill, and I like the way in which they execute it. You saw a great representation of how their comp works, both aggressive or defensive. The moment that the Vi dives in, you have all this potential peel from the Galio ultimate, from the Rakan, to just focus that single target down and zone the rest of SK away from following up in the fight.
Yeah, even with a good equalizer, the Galio ult just shielding so much of that damage onto a priority target, and while Patrik doesn't have cleanse, he's only going to get harder to kill as this game goes on. Execute level 6 has caught RKR out. Shockwave there as well. Charmed, dashing away. No flash. Boukada just has to watch his mid laner die. Bit of an extended play. Rogue managed to get the kill.
An easy pick for Rogue as they find another. Meanwhile, Adam is just freely hitting onto the tower into the bot lane. Rogue is also going to get pushed in the top lane. Execute, he should be fine here. He has the assistance of his team nearby. But Rogue continues to gain advantages on the map, finding pick after pick and putting pressure on these towers.
But CS is just being deleted on this top lane tower. There are pings down onto this last grub. But again, SK losing, it looks like half a wave. Can't see if there's a cannon there or not, but it just paid 200 gold for that, for that grub. So SK, it's seeming a bit, maybe too much tunnel vision here.
I mean, look at how strong Patrik is now. 1k gold lead, Blade completed. The double Trinity Force spike that you'd be looking at with this double AD carry composition coming through from SK. Still a ways from being online. Should be done relatively soon, but Rogue, I guess the way to think about it is in 2 minutes time, those are probably completed. How much more of an advantage can Rogue get? I don't think it's significant. So I'm excited for this next fight because I think both teams are going to be on that strong one-item spike, and they're going to be looking to fight.
Definitely will feel good. Larssen, Archangel still stacking. Might not be ideal, but the double Trinity Force will be a powerhouse. Thus far, though, Rogue have been quicker on the setups. The bot lane matchup still a little bit tough for Gen X at this stage of the game. He's at least able to keep the waves away from his tower, but still lagging pretty far behind in terms of completed itemization.
Minute 30 now until the Herald. Similar sort of timer for the Dragon. Malrang sets his sights onto Loopy.
Loopy's still level 5. This is the downside of conceding that wave. Just go mid, get one creep, my guy. Just one Loopy! Oh my god.
Okay.
It's not Rakan, you know? Like level 5 Rell, level 6 Rell, it's different, but it's not Rakan levels of different. But again,
definitely important, that's for sure.
And I think this is the thing about SK is they've lost out in push, and some of their map movements have been, I would say, costly in the sense that they've lost now 2, maybe 3 waves, and now an entire tower to Larssen just perma pushing this lane.
Yep. Remember that Larssen was quite far behind during the laning phase, but after moving out and playing through side lanes a little bit more, he continues to pick up farm. He's at 166 CS at 15 minutes, the Larssen Classic. My man loves to farm, and he's doing a great job of it so far in this game. Another tower will drop here in favor of Rogue. So now they've converted what was a minor lead into a 2k gold lead. Loopy's still level 5. He wants that last minion.
Just try to kill him before he hits it. He doesn't make it over the wall. Forced to flash out. Aftershock procced. Won't be able to participate in the objective fight, but he does tick over to level 6.
He does.
Take that, haters.
He gets the much needed level for the ultimate unlock. But now objectives are on the board, and as you already highlighted, Drakos, that is a big HP bar that has disappeared.
He's recalling now. They're going to try to kill Malrang before the fight starts, but they get double ultis out. It's not too bad if Boukada can escape, but it looks like it's going to cost him his life. Execute now trying to follow up. Lockdown is there. Gen X looking for the disengage. Boukada miraculously making it out. A lot of initial cooldowns going down. The entire team now retreating, and it's Rogue who've overstayed because Gen X is finally here. And when it's not the Galio, he damn well hurts, but it's Adam who goes back in. A punch, a little bit of justice delivered as he's forced to flash out. But Keduii now set to try and take over. Extra mana coming in, landing each and every shot. Wants to arcane shift forward, still manages to hit him. Keduii, confidence as he steps up to the river. Rogue burned way too many cooldowns and then just kept fighting.
So being a 2-for-1 in favor of SK, and now they've garnered position over the Dragon. Loopy, he's still fishing for more. I don't really think he's much of a threat, but if it can keep Malrang away from this bot tower, it could be an opportunity for SK to get their first tower of the game. A massive teamfight win for SK as they stop Rogue in their tracks, who will progressively gaining more and more control over this game. And SK have now bought themselves a little bit of breathing room.
Still Rogue with the gold lead, but as you highlighted, I kind of got away with murder there, right? Boukada went really deep, didn't really have that initial follow-up. Malrang immediately threw his ult down, but then Rogue really desperate to turn that fight into something more, and we'll see here, SK able to turn it.
I mean, Boukada does something pretty smart. When the follow-up engage comes through and the rest of SK really aren't in a position, he commits the ultimate to mitigate some of the CC, in particular the charm from the Rakan, flashes away, uses his Q to go over the wall. Now, the Rumble ultimate's doing decent damage, and he's able to come in from the flank where Execute oversteps too much. And Gen X is able to unleash so many of the resources we used initially that he's able to do a huge amount of damage. And while he does lose his life, it sets up for Keduii to then clean up the fight.
That is a struggle. Once Ezreal starts to pull ahead in these fights, so easy for him to just play so far forward, so aggressive, but we come back to live. Rogue set up on the objective. SK trying to control the bottom side as we see the push through lane from RKR. Malrang. Gonna get this for free. At the end of the day, Rogue not gonna be too sad about that exchange. I do think that Rogue a little over-eager on that Galio ult from Adam. Malrang was immune to all damage besides Boukada there with his own ult. But I understand to be quick on the trigger. Again, the pressure really is on Rogue in this series. Both teams under a bit of it, but Rogue really feels like do or die very early in the season.
I imagine the logic was, hey, this buy is inting, we can just kill him real quick. Let me just
100%.
follow up, I'll get the CC. Speaking of...
Ulti in, Patrik untouched off to the side, Loopy trying to run, but he's already dead. Keduii in a decent position, a lot of cooldowns burned. He's now trying to get face first into Patrik. Execute trying to tank the damage, but Gen X is already there. Patrik getting burned down. It's a fight on two fronts as Boukada's still standing. Ulti from the Ezreal sidestep, but it doesn't matter. Walking into the red carpet, finding a fast dash. Larssen tries to make his way out of there, but Clockwork not working fast enough. Shut down coming through.
It's another team fight that goes the way of SK. Rogue are the ones to initiate it, and it was somewhat of a scattered fight as they punished the overextension from Loopy, but then it starts to fall apart again once Gen X joins the fight. And this is a great example of why Rumble is just such a powerful champion. At this point in the game, he's doing so much damage. Look here, it's SK trying to set up for a pick. The response from Malrang is fantastic as they're quickly able to shut down Loopy and they hand the kill over to Patrik. But now the fight becomes split up because Patrik is isolated with his bot lane as Gen X then arrives and is able to clean up the bot lane. Meanwhile, in the river, Boukada is just buying a huge amount of time. And even though he does die, look at how many resources had to be expended by Rogue. A lot of health bars were lost, a lot of abilities were used, making it easy for Keduii to come in and pick himself up a kill.
As we go further in the game, we're going to need to keep an eye on those key cooldowns for Rogue, because I think what we're starting to see now is SK, even if some of the engages start a little bit awkwardly, have a much easier time finding and connecting on those priority targets. Patrik's so good when he's got that beefy front line, but the second anyone steps away, he just doesn't have the room that he needs to work, despite individually being in a really good position.
I will also say that Gen X joining late in all these fights has just been fantastic.
Yeah, because I think the thing is Adam, you have to just start maybe holding the ultimate. That feels awkward.
Yep. I will also say that, like, Larssen's build, not the highest damage output Orianna
call it a vegan build. There's no damage. Which is awkward. Again, I understand why. There's a vibe. He wants to survive.
But like, he is, like, Galio is not going to be doing damage this game, and I do feel like the part of the responsibility of the Orianna is to, when that wombo hits, the combo comes through. You know what I mean? We'll see where his build develops as we continue. Right now, it's Boukada that's fishing.
Walking forward.
He's found a fish.
Behind. He seems to have found a big one, but he might have bit off more than he could chew. Boukada now in trouble. Flashing over the wall. Loopy is going to die for Boukada's sins. No, that was bad.
He got a bite on the line and he went overboard. I think that was way too deep. And Loopy, to his credit, he followed the engage. He followed the call.
And to Boukada's credit, the last 2 fights you've engaged have also looked very sus and have both worked out beautifully. So maybe a bit of false confidence.
He was following his instincts where he was saying, the last 2 engages worked out. We managed to make the play happen. But I think the problem this time was that it's very easy for Rogue's composition to collapse.
Or maybe, and this is degenerate cope.
Yeah.
He said, Loopy, your life is worth getting all of these major cooldowns from Rogue. Because Shockwave's still away.
Hey, Dragon, 20 seconds.
Dragon, 20
Not
seconds.
wrong. Vi Ultimate's going to be available.
Was it bad or was it big brain? Maybe we'll never know.
Loopy won't have ult. Orianna's ult is coming back up. The Galio ultimate is probably the biggest one. Still a pretty long cooldown. I don't think that's going to be available for this Dragon. Let's see how things play out. Will the long game work?
Level 13 as well. 2 ranks in that ultimate. Equalizer, such a disgusting ability. Even with double burn items, not the most raw AP. Do a lot. Keduii just continuing to poke, and this is one of the things we talked about earlier on, right? The range discrepancy means that it's a lot easier for SK to play in these stalled out scenarios.
Completely. You're completely right. Dragon's
no
chipping
flank
away at the HP bars of Rogue. Rogue's poke isn't really connecting right now. Good dodging from Rogue.
Adam's your flank, but it's not. He's not in a great position to flank, and more often than not, he's still going to have to ult onto someone, even if he finds the flank. So now it's a 50-50. Full committal for the coin flip. Adam just walks into them. They get the 50-50. Now finally the ult is coming out from Genex, but Patrik, Larssen relatively untouched. Malrang now retreating, but it's Loopy from behind with the flank. Keduii untouched. Double AD carries ready to take over with Patrik. Can he make the difference? Patrik dipping, dashing, diving, and burning to death. Larssen goes golden. But that extra tankiness, not the same as some extra damage. Keduii finding the double.
SK may have lost a flip, but that engage from Loopy was fantastic. He found an excellent flank from behind Rogue, and as Rogue was trying to retreat from the Dragon Pit, he found the engage that was fantastic. Now, look at this. You'll see that Boukada goes in, goes to the 50-50, doesn't quite connect it as Adam looks to interrupt. They're grouped up, and the Rumble ultimate doesn't really do that much damage. Execute is quite low, but then a flash over the wall from Genex, just as Loopy finds the engage, was flawless. Then Keduii, he fully commits to the fight. Genex ends up losing his life, but at this point, the fight is already won. I thought Rika was going to get himself a pentakill. Unfortunately for him, his HP bar was a little too low to clean that one up.
And that fight essentially starts with Boukada getting one shot, right? And still, SK managed to come out on top, and 80 carries with 2 items paired alongside this Rumble. Just looking like a good fit for SK in this game. 1 now starting up the Otacon. Will be False Life. See how aggressive they want to play with that buff. Will transition nicely into the Baron that spawns in 1 minute and 10 seconds, but Rogue don't want to give this up. TP on the way. SK, do they want to back out? They're a bit scattered, they're a bit split. Keduii ignited. Rogue wandering in through bot. SK immediately pinging the mid lane, trying to get pressure somewhere else on the map.
I think SK are doing the right thing and just backing off, utilizing the fact that a lot of TP, well, the TP fan was committed. But as you rightly said, Rogue is now putting the pressure on SK. They have to respond.
In. Armor penetration there now.
Keep your eyes on Genex. He's been instrumental in so many of these fights.
Adam trying to hold the choke. 7K, there's spears there too. Rogue, if they play this slow, it's in their favor, but XQ couldn't try to follow. Decent combo. Malrang gonna find an initial interrupt. Knockup coming through onto Keduii. Keduii initially chunked out, but burning. Strong core from SK, completely grouped up. Patrik retreating, Larssen running. There's just more damage on the side of SK. Ulti through, Keduii! Oh my god, it's disgusting, SK! A beautiful sequence of spells.
The HP bars were so low and primed to be picked off by the SK members. They find the re-engage and they turn it into an incredible fight. And look at the snap engage from Malrang, but the shockwave wasn't there. He gets the knockup, the Galio ultimate comes through, but then Keduii literally walks out. He walks away to safety. Meanwhile, all of the engages coming into the choke point against Genex. He did massive damage in the fight, and I hope we can actually see how much damage was done, because Keduii was able to clean up on the back end of this fight as RKR there to assist him. Great team fighting consistently coming through from SK.
And now they're just ahead, right? That was 3 items before Recruit started the fight. I could not see if Keduii had the 3 items as well, but has now finished the spear.
I think going into that fight, they were both at 2.5, I'm pretty sure, because I remember
RKR bought it and then immediately TP'd in.
Okay,
so
okay,
I can't speak to the Ezreal, but definitely that pen helps out. And now, they don't have the damage, my guy. Rogue need the perfect wombo. I think there was a world where when they had that lead earlier on, it wasn't as necessary, but with Larssen building so defensively, you can see that if he doesn't find that perfect shockwave, they just can't finish kills. Malrang stepping up. Oh, knock up there, end of the time. Loopy likely to die here, but it is just the withdraw. Rogue happy to have that initial gold injection.
I mean, it's a bit awkward now for SK because, well, they did have the Rakan, they've just lost the member who will quickly return to the map, but they can't really do much more now because with Rika's HP bar and the fact that they're down a man, they'll have to play defensively. Instead, they're going to clean out this vision. Dragon in a minute's time, though, so I think it's fine. I think their game plan was, let's take the top tier 1, let's then reset, get a bit of vision down maybe on the enemy side of the jungle, and then transition our pressure towards the bot side. It looks like that's still the game plan for now, even if it is a little delayed, and they should be able to secure this objective.
It's a bit tricky, though. Keduii's pretty powerful, makes it tough for Adam to match in the side lane. We'll at least be able to match the push, catch these waves. And SK continue to set up these traps. All it takes is for one person to fall for it. It'll all fall apart for Rogue. There's the initial ulti, a lot of CC burn, but just nowhere for Execute to go. And with the support down, SK have the opportunity to turn to Baron if they wish, but instead 20 seconds, tell the Dragon, soul on the table for Rogue. They do not want to risk giving it up.
Nice trap set up by SK. I mean, I think Execute should have been a little bit more aware. He should have recognized that the whole top side of the map really wasn't in his control. There could have been a window for him to actually start investing vision on the bot side, knowing that the Dragon would likely be the next objective, but either way, he ends up getting picked. Dragon now going to be uncontested.
And we are seeing, I think, despite like the 1-4 scoreline, some of the strengths of Vi. Once you're in an advantageous position, you just existing on the map, the threat you provide from Fog of War.
I mean, that's a great perspective.
I mean, look, you want to say Vi has been useless this game? I think you're wrong.
I think Vi has been like a cooldown target this game.
Yeah, Vi has absorbed so many ultis, but my point is only that it is so hard for Rogue to walk up in side lanes, which means that it's more likely that Execute feels like he needs to, you know, take some assumptions, take some gambles. Hey, let's assume that they've backed here, they got their pushes. Because, I mean, if Vi's on a side lane, Adam has to play so far back.
No, I mean, you're completely right. It was just more so that, like,
yeah. You don't want to walk away from this game with people going, why are they praising this man? He's 1-4-9, even though he did have some questionable engages that turned into very winning fights. That's all I will say.
He's been very effective at mind controlling Rogue and using everything into killing him.
And failing to kill him, actually, in many circumstances. Most of the times that he has died, it hasn't been the fight stories.
I don't know if I love this Baron.
It's a bold call. Trying to pull Rogue into them, but Larssen, they spot him on the top wave.
I mean, it's pretty fast at least.
Patrik moving in, and again, SK have just better range, better poke. Rogue don't have any cooldowns to throw. They just are going to run face first in here. Malrang tries to make it over the wall. 3K, excellent pinch. Patrik off to the side that wants to win the fight. 2K, the objective getting lower. Boukada wants to finish it. Malrang goes into the pin, but he cannot steal it. Still tries to follow up, tries to find the angle. Malrang goes down to Genix. The time for a bit of revenge after that landing phase. Finally, the penetration is there. Adam running, Boukada on the chase. RGE and Keduii still standing, looking to come into the fight as well. SK get the objective. It's a bit close, it's a bit scrappy, and it's a flip. But hey, coin came up heads.
Malrang tried his absolute best to steal that Baron away, but the fight's not done.
No, it's not. Keduii, though, relatively untouched. Execute about to get chunked through. This Ezreal is so strong. Patrik is trying to go. It's a 2v1. Keduii tries to flash. No! The shockwave. Larssen, Patrik barely holding on, but round 2, baby, another challenger approaches. Running carry falls. They just send another in. Well played on the shockwave from Larssen, but SK totally dominating.
Things are getting chaotic on the Rift. I think SK only has 2 Barons left after all of that. They committed for more kills. I think they may have overextended a bit, but they will walk away with a number of towers. We'll look back at the fight, and this choke point was so hard for Rogue to approach. The ulti coming through from Loopy on top of the ultimate from the Rumble makes it so hard for Larssen and Adam to approach. Look at how much damage this Orianna takes. Malrang flashes into the pit to try and steal it away, but he isn't able to do so. And then it just becomes a chase down from the side of SK. A close one from Malrang. Boukada, though, clutching it up for his team.
And those extended fights are just so hard for Rogue. Again, they're just clearly outranged. After that initial burst of cooldowns, things go south, and Keduii hitting most of his spells here. Credit to him. Misses 1 Q. That's a little bit awkward. Might have been Patrik dead, and then almost outplays the shockwave. You know, like 50 less range.
So many flashes were just burned. But hey, SK's having fun with it. They know that they're in a very winning position. You'll see the gold lead is now 7K in their favor. They've still got the Baron buff for about a minute. The base has already been broken, and Rogue is on full defense right now as SK set their sights on the base.
SK do have to be careful. Or not. Larssen locked up, about to get one shot. Flashes out to safety. Loopy keeping the fight going. Can't even push a button. Larssen burning, ticking, but he's running for his life. Loopy still in the midst of the entire team. The tower will fall. The re-engage now coming in. Loopy likely to go down. Doing untouched to the back. Patrik coming in a bit over-eager. Larssen with Zanya's up. Stone cold. Manages to live through that one.
A bit, I think, is generous. Like, they threw the kitchen sink at Rogue, and I felt like they did it for no reason. Like, they still had the Baron available. Look, they could have just played for the tier 2.
You know this as well as I do, because I know you've played a lot of Akali. Anytime you're playing against someone with Zanyas, there's a little voice in your head, and that voice is almost always lying that says, he's CC'd, you can kill him before he pushes Zanyas. If you go fast enough, if you push enough buttons, he will die before he turns gold.
Yeah, you would have thought that, like, the Galio would deter them from doing that, but apparently not. Well, now Rogue have a big opportunity. They got a number of shutdowns there. They will secure the mid-tier 1. What was a 7k gold lead is now quickly dropped to a 4.8k.
And the thing is, you can see from SK's perspective, if they get that pick into the tier 2 tower, they're in a great position to basically end the game because Rogue don't have a ton of wave clear once the Orianna's gone. But did they need to do it? Oh, hell no.
Well, I mean, the greater consequences now is that Rogue has good positioning on the Dragon. They've got the wave pushed in bot. They have full vision coverage over the bot side jungle. And SK kind of have to fight their way through.
Trying to get pushing mid.
Observers toggling the vision for us. You can see how challenging it is. They are walking into the blindness, and this is where they're very reliant on Loopy and Boukada, and Loopy is not that tanky.
No, he's not, and getting chunked out before the fight starts. It's been so often SK being the ones to poke before these fights start, but a lot of that has been based around the vision that they've had, the access that they've had, but Genix on the flank, a good angle. It should be impossible for this to be stolen away. There's a Kalista combined with a Smite. So Rogue should feel comfortable knowing that they can get the soul, but instead the call is to turn on to Adam. He goes golden for a second. Now the Infernal is there. Adam trying to live as long as he can. Two-man taunt going forward. Execute, finding two, locking up. Excellent knockup going in. Adam still getting chunked out though. Keduii trying to make the difference, trying to make it all happen. Rogue, yeah, they got the objective, but their backline is being shredded. Malrang forced to ult to get away from the Ezreal. Patrik running. Oh, the soul feels good, but death certainly does not. It's an inevitability. Patrik finally falls.
Rogue are so committed to finding the fight that, again, I think they just go in too deep. SK continue to play with space. They utilize their abilities to get distance away from the diving Rogue members, and then they turn it back in their favor. The Dragon is very nicely in their control. The objective here should just be get the Dragon, get out. You've done the work, but they force the fight. They say we want more. And so they commit heavily onto the Vi, onto the Corki, and they get the knockup. But where's the follow-up? Patrik and Larssen are basically being solo zoned by Genax. Keduii is completely safe and is able to turn the fight around. And SK turned it into a one fight.
Patrik spent so long on the edge of that pit, I think hoping to alt execute to safety. And so as a result, stood there for 7 seconds, did nothing, and then ran for his life. And those are those moments where you just can't go that deep. You have to just let your losses go. Soul for a kill is a fine trade.
The thing is, we're at a point of the game now where 4 items for Larssen. He now has the death cap. 4 items completed for Patrik. There is a pretty significant AD carry level difference, though. That is quite hefty.
I'm sorry, is there a Roa there? No. That's just basically 3 levels straight up.
Yeah. That is just a...
And you know what? Loopy might have spent a year at level 5, but Keduii spent that year farming.
That he did. So, yeah, I don't know if the Dragon Soul really matters. But I'm not going to say that it's all doom and gloom yet for Rogue. They haven't found a good fight, but in theory, they have the itemization that they need to win one.
The shotgun is there. They just have to get into melee range of this very hard-to-fight composition and pull the trigger.
They need to get the summoners out from RKR and Keduii.
I think you're adding more steps, and I'm getting nervous.
They need to somehow get the dashes out from the Corki and the Ezreal.
You're adding more steps.
And they need none of the peel to come through.
Okay, so it was much easier, I think, for Rogue in my head when we kept it simple as push all your R buttons at the same time. Malrang wants to be the difference. That's it! Delete it! In the blink of an eye, but Rogue, do they want to keep fighting? Taunt from Loopy now going in. Patrik caught in the middle. Patrik trying to get the hell out because Keduii just continues to poke and it's falling apart. SK, despite instantly losing their mid laner, it doesn't matter because Rogue are completely out of damage. The whole team fight falls apart. SK are
are just stronger.
The shotgun was lethal, but it only had one bullet. Then SK came back with the machine gun and they mowed Rogue down. Rogue with only a single member left. He's trying to TP back to base, but SK set their sights on the Nexus.
Pushing through. Wave standing behind them. They won't have supers, but they have the mites. 14 seconds on execute. Larssen shockwave is close. Keduii trying to find the poke. Boukada tries the Q flash, completely whips it, but how it's going to cost him? Boukada might just give his life for trying to Q flash. He resurrects. He's going to come back. SK, they should just end the game here, right? There's no way. The ball working its way in, redemption going through, but it's eyes on the Nexus. SK not taking the risk, trying desperately to finish the game, and they will be able to do so. SK taking game one.
Great team fighting overall from SK. Things were looking a little dicey in the early game, but they definitely punished